بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا، إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. أسأل الله تبارك وتعالى أن يجعل نياتنا خالصة لوجهه الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. I praise Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. I thank him and I ask Allah to send countless blessings and salutations upon our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all those who follow them in excellence until the day of judgment. And I ask Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala to grant us the sincere and noble intentions. I pray that all of you are well. Please share this session because insha'Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala, this is going to be an important reflection. Post-Fajr reflections, we used to have them years ago, like regularly. We do it here and there along with scattered thoughts. But this morning, I was pondering on a lot of things related to our communities, to the development of our communities, to the challenges and obstacles that exist within our communities, to some of the noble intentions and endeavors and efforts that are being made in our communities. And how do we reconcile all of these matters for an ultimate benefit? And I want to say that really we should all keep in mind that the ultimate benefit that we want is that we're winners on the day of judgment. That on the day of judgment, our good deeds outweigh our bad deeds. And that Allahu tabaraka wa ta'ala accepts us and admits us into al-Jannah, to paradise, bila adhab, insha'Allah ta'ala, without any previous torture. Let us all keep that in mind. I remember maybe this was like almost 20 years ago or more. No less, maybe. About 20 years ago. We were sitting around talking, some brothers, and one imam, he had come to Atlantic City to visit. And as we were talking about various issues, he said, man, we just want to go to paradise. SubhanAllah, that was funny. If you could see his expression. Because we was having some deep conversations. We were talking about, differences and, methodologies. And he just looked at us. We was all in a group, bunch of brothers. He said, man, we just want to go to paradise. La ilaha illallah. And really, that's the reality, right? We just want to go to Jannah. That's it. And receive the ridwan of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala. We want Allah to accept us. That's it. Now, the road to that may be quite challenging sometimes. And sometimes we forget the ultimate objective and solely focus on the route to it. And therefore, we get wrapped up in the route and never realize that the route we're taking may not even be leading us to the destination. MashaAllah. So the destination is the everlasting dwelling in Al-Jannah, receiving the acceptance of Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. Some may phrase that as that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is pleased with us, and which should be understood that Allah accepts us. He accepted our good deeds. He accepted our acts of worship. That's what we want, right? But there is the challenge of the abode of a taklif, which is the world we in. This is the realm of moral responsibility, accountability, where we're obligated with following the rules of the sacred law when we are morally responsible, when we are mukallaf. And that entails many things. Among them is having sound faith, al-iman, or in another way, if we look at it as an Islamic science, al-aqidatu sahiha, having the correct belief. And this is important, whether we're talking about the correct belief in Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and His attributes and His names and His actions, or whether we're talking about the prophets alayhimus salatu wassalam and what befits them among the attributes, or we're talking about the lawful and the unlawful, which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam instructed us with through his sacred law, his sharia. Or we're talking about things that would happen towards the end of time, or those matters that would happen on the day of judgment, or those matters that happen in the grave, or in paradise, or in hellfire. All of these matters we are responsible for so long as we are morally responsible, mukallaf. So our concern is to fulfill what Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala and his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered us with, and to refrain from what Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and his messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam prohibited us from falling into. That's our concern, whether that be in belief or practice or spirituality. So I think we should have a vast outlook to the Islamic sacred law and all of its components. And with that in mind, that should be our focus. Even when we deal with one another, we have to realize that even the one we disagree with, even the one we don't see the same thing when we look at the text of Al-Quran and the Sunnah, how we understand it is different, most of us just want to go to paradise. That's it. And we should have that outlook even when we differ. It's very important. When we don't see eye to eye on religious issues, the default should be for us that I know this person wants to go to paradise, even if his understanding of the issue is not as it should be. Our default position was, I know what you would like to do. And I think when we look at things that way, we're not accusing, we're really giving the benefit of the doubt to our fellow Muslim, even in the face of disagreement. Like, I know you want to go to paradise. I know you want to follow the laws and commandments of Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I know that is your objective. As it is for myself and for you, we have the same objective. Now, our challenge is that we do that accurately in terms of complying to the rules and avoiding the prohibitions and understanding the beliefs that lead to that. That should be the default position. So even when you see us disagreeing or criticizing or even sometimes refuting ideas of other Muslims, it is not about the intention and the desire of the person, because we believe that intention is to please Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala and to follow the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And they want to go to paradise. What it is clarifying the route so that we all would be a winner. And that is without arrogance, right? Because arrogance, as the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam described it, is looking down upon others and rejecting the truth when it comes to you. Looking down upon others, this is the meaning of al-kibr, arrogance, pride, conceit, all of these synonymous terms, is to look down upon others and to reject the truth when it comes to you. Now that second part, rejecting the truth when it comes to you, presupposes that you understand the truth when you see it. Because sometimes people reject the truth not out of obstinance, out of the fact they don't see it as the truth. So it may be the truth, but they reject it based on something in them that doesn't convince them that that thing is the truth. Like, for instance, can y'all deal with raw truth, like straight talk, without getting offended? I know some of you, because sometimes we're talking to the choir. That's an expression, meaning people who see things the same as you. But I'm particularly talking about my Wahhabi brothers who call themselves Salafi. I'm specifically talking about you. Or others who have a default Wahhabi position. Can you handle a real conversation, like without getting offended, just like have a real talk, right? And since one of your great imams said that Wahhabi is an honorific title and you should be proud of it, so when I say Wahhabi, don't get mad. Go tell that imam, that sheikh, especially in my area, they brought this person to my area and they said, our sheikh is here. Your sheikh said that Wahhabi is an honorific title, so don't get offended, right? I have him be South was Surah in his voice and his picture. He said we should be proud that to be said that we are Wahhabi because that is an honorific title. Okay, good. That means we're not going to get upset. I hear them lately on the internet, and I was just listening to some this morning. They got a full-scale religious, theological assault on the community of Imam Wafdi Muhammad. Man, I ain't never seen so many videos refuting the community of Imam Wafdi Muhammad from their side like I've seen in the recent, since Ramadan and on. It's like they on them. And I think that's a little jealousy from black people, honestly, my opinion. I could be wrong. But I think that our brother from the Wafdi Muhammad community, Rashad Abdul Rahman, I think he's giving it to him. He made a few videos saying stuff basically that we've said for years, but he's from the Wafdi Muhammad community. And they usually don't talk that straight. But I know why he's talking that straight. I'm understanding who he's learning from, so he's getting some raw information, right? But when he made those videos about the Wahhabis and so-called Salafis, that it pricked the nerve in them. And they're like, on them. And I say to myself, those same issues that you claim about them, deviance and misguidance, those same issues apply to you. If we as a community ever really study, we're going to see that you're a heretical group. That's real. Even if you don't believe it, the facts, historically and globally, by our chains of narration, by our books of our scholars, will prove that you are an innovative group. No doubt about it. The question would come for us when we learn collectively. I'm not talking about individuals, right? Collectively as a community, right? When we learn our religion, the question is, are we going to accept your claim that everyone was misguided until your group came along? That's the end result. But from research and studying, it's obvious to anyone with an intellect that this is not mainstream Sunni Islam, for sure. There's no doubt about it. If you just study here historically, the history of Al-Hijaz, which is now called Saudi Arabia, and Najd. So just study Najd and study Al-Hijaz, those two areas, historically, just the area of the Arabian Peninsula, you'll see that the ideas that you're pushing are new ideas, that they never had solid ground even in the Arabian Peninsula. This is a fact, right? This is a fact. Historically, you can trace it. But because in our communities, Islam is still relatively new for us, and understanding the deen is relatively new for us. And we don't like to admit that because it kind of gives you like feeling like less than or some sense of inferiority. But in reality, we're still learning as a community. It's not that we're unintelligent. Of course, we are among the most intelligent groups of people on the face of the earth. But the information is new to us. Access is new to us. Learning the language and all of these things that it takes to have a thorough, well-rounded understanding of the deen, we're still learning, right? All of us. No one is free from that, right? And the only one who doesn't realize that is someone who is deluded, right? That we're learning collectively together. We're still learning. So none of us really should be criticized for not having sufficient information to give us a well-rounded understanding. And some of that's by design, right? But like I said, even those Wahhabi people themselves, they still have a lot to learn, right? They're deluded to think when I graduate from the University of Medina, I'm learning. They know better, but when they come here, they give us that fallacy. And anyone who did any little bit of studying, you don't need a lot. You don't need to be a graduate. You just need to know our Sunni tradition, and you will realize that a graduate from the University of Medina, or anywhere else for that matter, is not a scholar. It's not even really learning. They're in the beginning process of learning. That's just real. But they'll come back here and promote themselves as sheikh. That doesn't put you down. It's just not real. It's like you got a lot more to go. And you took steps, and that's a great thing. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But there's a lot more to this puzzle, and you don't have all the pieces. That's reality. That's not putting you down. That's not being mean. That's for all of us. We're still in the process of learning. But when we learn, we're going to discover something. I'm going to give you an example. I said we're going to have a real talk. If you talk to the average one of these guys, you have a real conversation. And you say, okay, and this is our own dialogue, how we talk. I'm not trying to be nobody else. This is how we talk. One-on-one, if we just like us. Listen, bro, what did you actually learn? Let's break it down. What did you actually study? Really, let's really have a talk. You will discover that they had at best what would be equivalent to us as Cliff Notes. All y'all know what Cliff Notes are? Is everyone, just give me a yes or no. Are you familiar with Cliff Notes? Especially you who studied in universities or college, even in high school. You know what Cliff Notes are? Let's get some feedback on that. How many of you was using them? Right? Right. Let's look that up. How do they describe it? So these cliff notes are designed to facilitate you understanding maybe text, because it's like summarize, get to the point, this is the meat, that's the idea. What really means that someone took from the original and gave you a summary because the original may be a little bit above your pay grade. They call it facilitating for you. And really, in reality, it's causing you to not actually understand the material as you should. It's like a way of dumbing down the information. And you have a fancy way of saying, you know, it's a summarized version of the original. So their whole study is Cliff Notes. That's all it is. The average person has not studied a complete book, line for line, in anything. And if they did, it was basically reading and listening, no real study, right? I mean, because if you ever studied, you know you can't do that in 4 years. You can't have thorough study in 4 years in that university setting. It just don't work. Anyone who studied traditionally knows that, right? So you're only going to fool someone who don't know. Anyone who studied with living teachers for real, no, you can't do that in 4 years, right? Not a thorough study, right? You can't. That has substance. It's just not possible. Time doesn't allow it, and everybody's intellect is not capable of grasping all that in a classroom setting. So that's going to be individual studies at best with advanced students. That's just real, right? So the idea is that those people have an inferior education. And we should realize that. It's like rubber stamp education. And that's what's given to us. So for us, from the door, if we're receiving information like that, we're already at a disadvantage, right? Because you're not even aware, because of all these summarized notes you have, you're not even aware of the tradition that we have in Islamic scholarship. And you know, I know it because I've talked to many of them. And when you have a real conversation with them, that's why they don't like to have real conversations, you'll quickly discover you never read the books. You'll be mentioning scholars, I mean, those Wahhabi people, they don't even know who they are. They've actually never read books. It's all copy and paste from those cliff notes, right? This is deep. Like, you actually never read a book. I remember, and I'll mention him and he'll prove it since he always talking stuff. I remember sitting in the house of Dawood Adib, and it was witnesses. And at that time, Dawood Adib was the sheikh of all sheikhs in African-American communities, especially among the Wahhabis. He was the sheikh. We're having a discussion, and the points he's making are clearly mentioned in the books he have right in his house, right? So he's making major errors, and the books are right downstairs in his basement of his house where he lived. The book is right there. All you got to do is open the book and you can fix that mistake. And I was telling my partner, who's probably here, I'm like, just all he got to do is read the book, conversation over. Do you know he wouldn't actually open the book? He wouldn't read the book. Even later, I'm like, read the book. It's right there. You won't make that mistake if you read. He wouldn't read. He was so programmed in what those Saudis told him, the book right in front of him, and he won't read it. But he has it, which is weird. Like, you have the book. All you got to do is open the book, God. That easy. Simple. You understand Arabic. Even if you're not advanced, you do understand enough to read. The book is right there. Open it up. Do you realize a lot of these differences that we have, all you got to do is open the book and it's solved? Then you'll see arrogance. Just open the books. You'll see arrogance. Like, it's mind-boggling that education can be used to make you uneducated. Let me run that by you again. It's mind-boggling that education can be used to make you uneducated. Just think about that. And that's what it is. They go for education. They get programmed in the name of education, and they become uneducated. In the presence of the material that can educate you. That's horrifying when you think about it. It's horrifying. And I got friends, all of them, right? Graduates from the University of Medina. And I'd be like, how are you making these mistakes? When I discovered that it's not you, it's the system of education. It's not education. It's programming you and indoctrinating you to a certain thought. And because they keep the real material away from you, they only give you cliff notes, you never recognize they're indoctrinating you. That's the problem, right? I'll give you an example. You'll read their books. All of their books are cut and paste jobs, copy and paste, right? All of their books. So they'll say, we're following the Salaf. But all the ones they quote, all their references, none of them are from the Salaf. None of the books, none of the teachers. Everybody they quote, they're quoting someone else who's quoting the Salaf. They've actually never read the books of the Salaf themselves with an unbroken chain of narration back to any of those books, right? So it's always quotes. And they never verify the quote. So if Bin Baz said something, or Fawzan says something, or Ibn Uthaymeen says something, or Muqbil says something, or Al-Albani says something, most of them take that as that's the law. Because these are the ulama. Who made them the ulama? Did you ever ask that question? Who made them the ulama? As if there were no other ulama, no other scholars in the whole globe except those ones whom you claim are the ulama. Who made them the ulama? Who authorized them? Because our system is a system of authorization, of connection, right? Who were the ones that made them the great scholars of the world? You ever thought about that? And then when you go back, you will understand that you became the great scholar through political movements that conquered Muslim land. That's reality. That's how you get your doctrine. And then when that doctrine is there, now after it's established as a political landscape, now you give authority to whoever you want. That's a fact. And now you want us as a people to accept that. Because those scholars that you call them scholars were stamped by the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now they become the scholars of the African American community too by default because they paid for your Cliff Notes. Really? I mean, let's think about this. Listen, and this is not claims of superiority. We're not saying, okay, we're better than you. No, we're all in the same position. So since we're all in the same position, then we recognize the position. Do you follow my point? We're all recipients of some sort of indoctrination to an extent. The degree differs, but it's still someone dictating to us how to think. And this is a problem for us as a people, right? We have to mature to the level where we can think for ourselves. And it's not taboo to think. It's not taboo to look at reality that's staring you right in the face and say, hey, that ain't right. These are notions that need to be corrected, right? It's very important because I know it here in my own city. I know it like the back of my hand. We had a period of peace. Man, it was a period of peace, right? Right. And now you start to see issues that we went by come back up with new younger people. So they go to Saudi Arabia, they get indoctrinated, and they come back with the same old nonsense, right? But never do they sit down and have a real discussion, not an argument, not a debate. I ain't talking about that. I'm talking about like just a discussion, right? And I have this thing, right, in my mind, especially for us. I'm not interested in no one else in this issue. I'm talking about African Americans. I'm not talking about nobody else in this issue because this is our particular problem, right? So when I'm speaking, I'm not interested in what someone else come to like be the big brother for us. I'm not interested. I'm talking about us, African Americans, right? Because we have the same problem, no matter where it comes from. Someone telling us something and we not checking it. We're not fact checking. We're not reviewing. We're not examining. We're just blind following. And then long as it has a nice slogan, it works. No matter what that slogan is, it don't matter. That's not healthy for us as a people, right? So we have the right to examine the evidence. We have a right, like everyone else. And we must do it. Not we should, we must do it. We must have access to original material. And if we're not qualified, we must use our people who have the same condition as us to do that, right? We need to do our own research. It's important. And no ego should be in that. Sometimes the best researcher, because of a quality or an ability he may have, may be a Wahhabi guy from among us. Maybe, possible. He may be just smarter than everyone else, just in intellect. We ain't talking about he's right in every issue, but intellectually, he may be a great researcher. So then he could be a one to do that extra research for us all. It's possible. He may be Sunni, he may be Sufi, he may be having a quality that just others don't have. Some people are naturally more intelligent than others. Do you follow my point? That doesn't mean you right in every issue. It just means you have a quality that this one doesn't have. And it should be used for the collective so that we can collectively grow in our educational process. That's it. So we should never be afraid to open the books. We should never be afraid to dialogue because we need each other, right? When we do that, what are we going to find? We're going to find a lot of things out. We're going to find that the matter is not as it been presented to us. That this is a party line. And that party line is not good for us as a collective. No matter where it's coming from, right? So I always say to us, learn. And it's going to be in stages. But when you learn, you're going to see things that you didn't see before you learned. And you're going to develop, and your positions are going to change. Trust me. I had some teachers at one point, man, I thought they were the greatest scholars walking. Because I didn't know no better. I didn't even know what scholarship looked like. So the person who wasn't even a beginner student to me was Shaykh al-Islam. Because I didn't know. And then as you learn and you develop, you start to realize he's not a bad person, but he's not what I thought he is. It doesn't make him bad. It doesn't make that he doesn't know anything. But the level I put him to, he's not, because I learned. And then I start to see he doesn't have that level, right? And then you see people higher and higher in degrees of learning, right? That's a natural process. Do you follow? That's a natural process. And we need that in our communities. And one of our imams, he called me the other day, and he was talking about the need for us to develop. We've been having this conversation with a couple imams. The need to us to develop scholarship among ourselves. And there is a need for that, right? And you don't know how difficult that is. We've been taught that that's not for us, subconsciously. Hey, black people, y'all not to be authorities or nothing. Y'all only can be a subject people, right? Y'all have to follow and never lead. On the world stage, your place is servitude. Subconsciously, unfortunately, too many of us believe that. Without it being said, it's just understood. It's sad, but it's true. And if we're honest with ourselves, we'll know it. That's why it's so hard to find, like, even the thought of us getting together and doing what we need to do and research and figuring out our issues. And some of us would say, we're not qualified. Okay, what we gonna do to get qualified? Right? What we gonna do to get qualified? And what is qualified? And who represents that? And how can we attain that? We won't even ask those questions. We'll just say, you know what? You're right. I'm not qualified. Here you go, boss. Tell me what to do. It's a sickness. And I see it all the time. And it ain't just for the Wahhabis. Even Sunnis are like that. As us as a people. Default surrender. Right? Surrender from default. Not even make an effort. Just surrender. Right? This is a problem. So this long, drawn-out post-Fajr reflection is just to wake us up. to make us realize that we have to take accountability for our own salvation, which necessitates that we learn, we research, we study, we join forces for our own empowerment, not against nobody else, just for our own salvation as a collective, as a people, because we share the same stuff. We share the same struggles, the same obstacles. None of us are free from it, right? And we got to have that conversation. And we must realize that some people are happy being a slave among us, a mental slave, a spiritual slave, because it's not physical slavery. If I control your mind, I don't need to control your body, because I have your mind. You're going to do whatever I say. And if I control your spirituality, I control your religious thought pattern, your theology, you really could become a slave, because you're only going to think and believe as I tell you. And you won't even question it, because it's considered sacrilegious to question me. It's considered sacrilegious to question me. Even if I'm doing the obvious crazy thing, like to hear a Negro in 2026 have an allegiance to a foreign state that racism is at the highest height. It's insane. But you see Negro talking about the kingdom of Saudi Arabia. You can't be serious, bro. And in their mind, we have allegiance to the rulers. What the hell are you talking about? Seriously, bro. Are you sick? Like, if that is not a Malcolm X boss, we sick. Boss, Negro. That's not your state. They do not accept you, Negro. What are you talking about? Like, think about that mindset. You got Negroes in America talking about the kingdom of Saudi Arabia and defending it. Are you out your mind? I mean, like, forget just the religious part of that insanity, but just as reality of the world affairs, are you lost your mind that you actually believe that it's not funny? It make you want to cry. Just world politics. You need a visa. You need to stay in the country. And you talking about our leaders. You can't even study without their permission in their country. And you're talking about our leaders, the Muslim leaders. All the things our forefathers struggled to get freedom, to be an independent people, and that's what you came up with? Like, come on, bro. You can't be serious. Like, but that's what I mean when I indoctrinated you. That lets you know you jacked up, man. Like your mind is shot. You fit right into that saying that they made, that a freedom fighter would say, I freed 100 slaves, and I would have freed 1,000 more if they realized they were slaves. Like, it's sad. This is and that mentality is what's teaching us religion. How are you going to research with a mind like that? How are you really going to study with a mind like that? It don't make sense. Your mind is jacked up. You need to overhaul in your thinking before you can even examine text. That's why when you look at the Quran and Sunnah, you don't see anything but what the Saudis taught you. The same party line. Like, it's sad. And guess what? We're afraid to tell them you tripping, man. Your mindset is shot. Even when they complain, see, like, I was trying to do a study. There was a movement of all those guys who got thrown off the minhaj. Get every single one of them who was kicked off the minhaj, and you will find a trend that's equal. All of them were thrown off the minhaj because they refused to follow the way of one Saudi scholar. Listen to what I said. Every single one of them who were thrown off the minhaj, who now are not really Salafi, so they made their own Salafi stuff, was one Saudi scholar. And I say scholar because he's a scholar to them, regardless of how we feel about it. One person threw every single one of them off the minhaj. And the ones who are still on the minhaj are blind followers of that one Saudi scholar. And that comes to our neighborhoods as the truth, the way of the Salaf. One person. And don't take that from me. Go look and research when all of them started declaring their independence like nations, right? Every single one of them started declaring, man, we don't follow no Saudis. They ain't telling us. They were actually going to other Saudi sheikhs to get relief from one Saudi sheikh. And when they didn't give him relief, they start bucking. Every single one of them. This is real. And listen, we have the same thing with Sunni Negroes. Don't think that's changed. I'm focusing when I'm mentioning the Wahhabiyya because they cause the most fitna in our communities with their false claims of knowledge, right? And most of us are intimidated by them. I don't know why, but we are. But other Negroes are the same, Sunnis. Hey, listen, we got a Negro problem here, right? This is an inferiority complex. We look at somebody else as the old saying, the white man's ice is always colder. That's not true, right? And that's something we got to fix. It's just real. And if we stop pretending and have real talk, you'll discover it. I had one time a teacher told me when we had this conversation, he said, you're bold. I'm like, I'm bold? What the heck is you call what you doing to our people? You don't call that bold? You know daggone well you're not a scholar, and you got our people thinking you a scholar. And you know yourself you're not a scholar. And you never tell them, hey, I'm not a scholar. I'm teaching you some stuff, but our people actually think you a scholar, and you know better. You know better than that. But you never stopped us. You never said, listen, I'm still learning myself. I'm actually a student. You gladly enslaved us through religion for your own benefit, even if it was just for your ego. You know better. And now I'm bold because I recognize that you know better. That's some deep stuff. Like, and you come in our neighborhoods and run our neighborhoods, and you know better. I can see if you were deluded. No, you know better. You actually know what scholarship look like, and you know you're not it. Instead of saying, let's research together, let's grow together, you like, let me be over you. Let me take all the resources out your community. Let me build institutions in the suburbs and leave you Negroes in the inner city struggling. And then tell us how much success you've made while we remain in the same state for 30 years. And we will accept that. And that's across the board. That's a problem. That's a serious problem. And I don't think we pay attention to it. Islam didn't come to do that to us. We've done that to us by allowing people to subjugate us, to dominate us, and to intellectually outwit us. That's our fault. We have to take some responsibility for allowing that to happen. And not only take responsibility to actually make an active change. We ain't going for that no more. No. It's not happening. No sirree, not happening. And you don't have to like it. We ain't going for that. You can just be mad at us because we ain't doing that. No. We actually have the obligation to be men and women and to what? To stand on our own 2 feet. We have that obligation. We do. It's important. And I challenge us as a people to stand up for ourselves. I'm not saying be arrogant. We have to learn, all of us. None of us are an exception. And we need all of us to learn because we all don't have the tools and the skills or the access individually. It's going to take a collective. Listen, no one's making claims. We can't do it by ourselves. We can't. We need each other. You know, we be saying that slogan, we all we got. No, that's real. And we may get some support from others outside our community that really understand we Muslim. And Islam didn't come to subjugate anyone. Islam came to build us all up as a human race, to guide us to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That was the objective of Islam. However, human beings are human beings. That's real. That's real. We are human. You know, my teachers used to say, you know, be careful when you're around your teacher that you don't get distracted by his bashariyah. His humanness, don't get distracted because he's a human being. Even though he's your teacher, even though he's knowledge, focus on the knowledge and what he's teaching you. Don't get wrapped up in his humanness because he's going to make mistakes. He's a human being. So take that into consideration. So for us, we want the knowledge to be winners on the day of judgment, to enter paradise, to receive the acceptance of Allah. But we need to take the route. And I'm saying that because it's extremely important as we get older, as we look at these grays in our beards, we have to start thinking, yo, we don't got that much time. This gray is a reminder that life is short. And you have now to do the work, not tomorrow. Tomorrow is judgment. Al-yawm al-amal wa ghadan al-hisab. Today is work, tomorrow is judgment. And listen, we might not be able to change the world, but we can change ourselves, right? And if we change ourselves, we have the opportunity and the availability to actually change something in the world. And one of the things we got to change, we got to stop thinking like slaves and an oppressed people, an inferior race. We got to stop thinking like that collectively. We got to have the courage to say, I have the right to use my intellect and understanding to evaluate matters. That's what Allah gave you. Allah tells us, أَفَلَا تَعْقِلُونَ? Do you not use your intellect? Some things you got to examine. Your mind has a purpose in the sacred law. It's not something that is, it's not something that's unlawful to use. You can't understand the Quran and Sunnah without using your intellect. The Quran tells that itself. The Quran tells us, and they enter the fire, they say, had we listened and used our intellects, we would not be of the people of the hellfire. That's reality. You have to think. It's not unlawful to think. It's not unlawful to examine. It's not unlawful to research. In fact, it's recommended and praiseworthy in the religion to do that. Don't be so gullible. And that's expected for us, to be gullible. Don't be gullible. Use your brain. I'm not saying don't use revelation. You need revelation. You need the Quran and the Sunnah and the consensus of the scholars, and you need the understanding of the Salaf. But you need to make sure that's the understanding of the Salaf, not the understanding of the Saudis. Let me repeat that. You need to use the Quran and the Sunnah and the scholarly consensus according to the understanding of the Salaf. But what you need to make sure is that's truly the understanding of the Salaf, not the understanding of the Saudis. Did you hear that? Did you follow me? I agree 100%. We need to follow Al-Quran, As-Sunnah, As-Sahiha, yes, and Al-Ijma' and Fahm Salaf. But you need to make sure that what you're understanding is the understanding of the Salaf, not the Saudis. There's a difference. And the only way you're going to do that is research, study. It's easy. It's not that difficult. All you need is access. And collectively, we have access. We don't, it's not like the 70s where we didn't have enough people who could research, who could read, who could study. We have all that. But sometimes we just got to get us out of slave mentality. Think, use your skill set. Do you know how many of us have actually spent over a decade, sometimes almost 2 decades, studying overseas in their schools, and we still afraid to research? Ain't that deep? Man, you graduated from an Islamic university. You've been studying with teachers, and you still scared to research? No one does that but black folks. What's wrong with you, man? You speak Arabic, you understand, you can read. After 20 years, you still looking for permission to research? When all your teachers got a bunch of students researching for them. Let me repeat that. When all of your teachers have a bunch of students far less time in it than you, researching for them, and they're writing books and selling them to you. Listen to what I just said. We have us, among our African-American students and teachers, they spent 20 years, graduate, some of them, studying with teachers, right, learning. And after 20 years, they're scared to research. And their teachers have students, kids, 20, 19, 25 years old, researching for the teacher. The teacher got those students together, writing books, and they sell those books to those students who've been studying for 20 years. Think about that. This is what's happening to our community. And then those students, so long as they from them become the teacher of those brothers and sisters who studied for 20 years. And it's not that they're not talented, it's the mind. Think about that stuff. So it's deeper than just quoting stuff and sounding good. It's deeper than that. Like, and I say this in closing, because I'm at the 1 hour mark, a little bit over, but I want to stop. I say this. If we, and I'm going to be pushing this among our brothers and sisters who have learned something, no matter the degree, but they're actually into the business of learning and teaching. We need to start opening up our tradition and giving access to our people, even if it's just reading books. You notice during Ramadan, we did 3 books during Ramadan from Masjid Muhammad, right? 1 traveling and 2 in the masjid. And I know a lot of it was in Arabic and we were just summarizing because of time. But you know, my real intent with that was to get us to have exposure. We're not going to get everything all at once. It's just not possible, right? But to give us exposure to realize that it's more than meets the eye, right? It's important. That we need access. We need to know what is available, right? Sometimes your business fails because you don't have access to a strong distribution network with good prices. Everything's overpriced for you, so you can't compete, right? Because others have access to manufacturers or distributors or wholesalers, and you trying to flip from a retailer. You're trying to build your business off a retailer while they have access to the manufacturer, to the distributor, to the wholesaler. You only have access to the retailer. That's a problem. You're never going to compete on the global market like that. That's by analogy. And if your Islamic knowledge is like that, you got the same problem. You're not going to compete. Do y'all follow that analogy? You're trying to build your business by shopping with a retailer, and they have access to the manufacturer, to the distributor, and or the wholesaler. They're not dealing with retailers. You are. Do you see the difference? It's not fair. We have to level the playing field for ourselves. And my last advice, and I'm going to close with this, I promise, Muti. Only because of you, I'll extend it, because I know you was late. You always late. Stop being scared of the Wahhabis. They're nothing to fear. It's all hot air. Don't be afraid. If you research and you study, you'll realize that stuff's a violent innovation. Don't be afraid. Listen, they have stolen our knowledge and rebranded it. That's it. Renamed it, remixed it. It's all a sample, and not even a good sample. If you ever learn the Sunni tradition, you see they stole our legacy, remixed it, and gave it back to us in an inferior form. Serious. And they're not even shy about it. That's how ignorant they think we are. They'll quote our scholars against us. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. It's funny, but sad. Like, you've been hoodwinked, bamboozled, run amok. Stop being afraid of them. And it don't mean nothing about violence, and that's low vibrations. We're talking about education, academics, scholarship. It's an inferior product. When you know our tradition, inwardly and outwardly, it's an inferior product. No ego. Let's just open the books of our scholars and you'll see it. Let's pay attention to what they're telling us, and let's just research what they're telling us. Let's examine when they quote who they're quoting. Let's research who they're quoting. Let's research the books. Let's research what they're saying, from where they say they get their knowledge from. Let's research it, and you're going to be astonished what you see. And it ain't because we think we super knowledgeable or we think we tough. It don't got nothing to do with that. It's actually realizing reality when you see it. Right? It's reality. Just, hey, listen, open the book. Let's see if it matches. And since you the sheikh and you the scholarable, you the knowledgeable one, you the student of knowledge, do your thing. Show me. I'm going to show you. Here, explain that. Here, explain that. Here, explain that. Here, explain that. And when you see all these contradictions in your mind, it got to say something ain't right here. Something should tell you it ain't right. That you see all the negative energy they got for black people. I'm talking about our brothers. We all deviants. They making whole lectures talking about black people, right? Their teachers, their leaders, those rulers whom they support, got friendship with the worst of kuffar. They got all the smoke for black people and black Muslims and how we're shirk and bid'ah and blah, 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 blah. But their leaders are in bed with the worst of the kuffar. The worst, most evil blasphemers on the planet Earth are friends with their leaders. That should tell you something. And they make excuses for them. But they can't make excuses for you as a nation of people who've been lied to. Shouldn't that tell you something? I mean, think about it. The worst of kuffar, the most vile people you could ever meet, probably on the planet Earth. They're shaking hands. They're buying material, billions of dollars, and they're teaching you your religion. In my Johnny Cochran voice, if it doesn't fit, you must quit. All right, y'all, man, this stuff is crazy. Barakallahu fikum. May Allah reward you. May Allah increase you. May Allah make us people of intellect. May Allah make us think for a minute, just for a minute. Help us, Ya Rab. We need an overhaul in our thinking. Really, we do. May Allah make it easy. And when we can't see this stuff, we really in trouble. But believe it or not, a lot of us don't see it because we don't even think that deep. May Allah make it easy. Barakallahu fikum. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.